The Divergence. Intellectual compatibility meets philosophical tragedy. The Divergence is a philosophical tragedy that explores the painful paradox of intellectual harmony without philosophical compatibility. Through Ben's voice, we witness the slow unraveling of a love that understood everything except how to survive. Two philosophers, perfectly matched in intellect, perfectly divided in spirit. The tragedy is not in illness or circumstance, but in the quiet, devastating realization that sometimes the people we understand best are the people we can never truly be with. Set against the backdrop of Nairobi, with the Ngong Hills as a silent witness to his grief, Ben's monologue asks, can two people who think alike truly love alike? And if not, is love enough to bridge the gap? She's gone. It's strange, this room. It feels smaller now, empty, like the air itself has been sucked out, leaving nothing but memory. I can still see her there in that chair, reading, writing, dismantling everything I believed. Bait. Even her name feels like a question, like something I never quite understood, something I spent 2 years trying to solve, and I'm still here, standing in her empty apartment, holding her book, holding her letter, holding the ghost of everything we were and everything we could never be. We met at a faculty lecture. I was arguing for Ubuntu as a framework for ethics. I was so passionate. I thought I could convince anyone. I thought the truth, my truth, was so self-evident that everyone would see it if only I explained it clearly enough. And then she spoke. She dismantled every argument I made. Not with anger, not with hostility, just clarity. Cold, precise, devastating clarity. She said that Ubuntu was beautiful but not true, that interconnectedness was a story we told ourselves to feel less alone, that the self was an illusion, a convenient fiction our brains constructed to make sense of the chaos, that love was just biology, chemistry, a strategy. I was furious. I was also in love. She told me later that she had been watching me before I spoke. She said I had this look in my eyes, this earnest, desperate look, like a man trying to convince himself as much as everyone else. She said she found that interesting. She said she found me interesting. I thought I could change her. I thought if I loved her enough, if I showed her enough kindness, if I proved to her that meaning was real, she would see. She would believe. But that's not how belief works. She told me that from the very beginning. Belief isn't a choice, she said. It's a consequence. You can't choose it. You can only be constituted for it or not, and I am not. I hated that. I hated her certainty. I hated that she could look at me, look at us, and see everything as just neurons firing, chemicals reacting, survival strategies disguised as love. But I loved her. God, I loved her. I loved the way she would tilt her head when she was thinking, the way she would bite her lip when she was about to say something devastating, the way her eyes would flicker, just for a moment, when I said something that made her feel something she couldn't explain. She couldn't explain it, she couldn't explain us, and that terrified her. I remember one night we were sitting on the balcony looking out at the Ngong Hills. The sun was setting. Everything was gold and green and impossibly beautiful. And I said, look at that. How can you look at that and not feel something, something beyond the physical? And she said, I feel something. I feel awe. I feel wonder. I feel the immense privilege of being a conscious being capable of perceiving beauty. But that's not transcendence. That's not meaning. That's just my brain responding to patterns of light and color. It's extraordinary, but it's not supernatural. And I said, who said anything about supernatural? I'm talking about meaning. I'm talking about purpose. I'm talking about the feeling that we're part of something larger than ourselves. And she said that feeling is real. The meaning isn't. The feeling is just your brain interpreting its own activity. It's a trick, Ben, a beautiful trick, but it's still a trick. That was the difference between us. I saw the hills and felt held. She saw the hills and felt small. I saw connectedness. She saw insignificance. And neither of us could convince the other. She was raised religious. Her grandmother was a prayer warrior. Every morning at 4 a.m. she would wake up and pray. Bate believed everything, every word. She knelt in the pews and prayed with her whole heart. And then she grew up. She read, she thought, and she realized that belief was just comfort, a warm blanket against the dark. She told me once I was a child. I was a child and I believed that God heard me, that He loved me, that He had a plan for my life. And then my grandmother died, and I prayed. I prayed so hard. I begged God to save her, and she died anyway. I realized then that prayer was just talking to yourself, that God was just a story, that the universe was indifferent, and I decided I would rather be honest than comforted. You're a poet, Ben. You believe in things you can't prove. You build cathedrals of meaning on foundations of sand. She said that. She said it like it was a diagnosis, like I was sick, like hope was a disease. And she was right. I am a poet. I believe in things I can't prove. I believe that love is more than biology, that kindness is more than strategy, that there's something, some purpose, that transcends our little lives. But what do I mean when I say that? I mean that when I hold her hand, I feel something that can't be reduced to neurons firing. I mean that when I see her smile, I feel a warmth that isn't just blood flow. I mean that when I think about her, I feel a sense of meaning that isn't just dopamine. I mean that I truly believe, that there is a dimension to human experience that science cannot touch, that consciousness is not just computation, that love is not just chemistry, that there is something, call it spirit, call it soul, call it whatever you want, that makes us more than the sum of our parts. And she believed that suffering is real, that pain is data, that the universe is indifferent. She believed that we are alone and that the only honest response is to accept it. But what did she mean when she said that? She meant that there is no divine plan, no cosmic justice, no ultimate purpose. She meant that when we suffer alone. When we love in isolation. When we die into nothing. She meant that the universe doesn't care, that it never cared, that it was never supposed to care, and that any attempt to find meaning in the universe's indifference is just wishful thinking. She meant that we are brief perturbations in a vast, cold cosmos, that our lives are tiny, that our love is small, that everything we are and everything we do will eventually be forgotten. And she meant that this was okay, that this was fine, that we could still find joy in the brief moment we have. But I couldn't accept that. I couldn't accept that love is just biology, that kindness is just strategy, that meaning is just a story. Because if love is just biology, then why does it hurt so much? Why does it feel like something more? Why does it leave me breathless and broken and somehow still grateful? And if kindness is just strategy, then why do people sacrifice themselves for others? Why do they give when there is nothing to gain? Why do they love when there is no benefit? And if meaning is just a story, then why does it feel so true? Why does it sustain us? Why does it make us want to live, even when living is hard? Two people, two philosophies, two ways of seeing the world, perfectly compatible intellectually, perfectly incompatible spiritually. We fought so much. Every conversation was a battlefield. Every moment of tenderness was followed by a dissection of that tenderness. She couldn't just feel. She had to analyze. She had to reduce. She had to understand. And I couldn't just be. I had to believe. I had to hope. I had to transcend. I remember one night we were arguing about free will. She was arguing that free will was an illusion, that everything we do is determined by prior causes, that we are just complex machines responding to our environment. And I said, if that's true, then why are you angry? Why are you frustrated? Why do you feel anything at all? And she said, because I'm a machine that's been programmed to feel. That's not a contradiction, it's just how it works. And I said, then what's the point? If everything is determined, if we have no choice, then what's the point of anything? And she said, there is no point, that's the point. There's just experience, there's just being, there's just this. And I said, that's not enough for me. And she said, I know. I've been reading her manuscript, the final version. She argues that love is a strategy, that marriage is a contract, that commitment is a mutual insurance policy against loneliness. But she also argues something deeper. She argues that our entire moral framework is built on illusions, that we invented the concept of goodness because we needed to justify our existence, that we created the idea of justice because we couldn't bear the reality of chaos. She argues that everything we hold sacred is just coping, that religion, morality, love, hope, all of it is just us trying to make sense of a senseless world. And she argues that we should stop pretending, that we should accept the truth, that we should live without illusions. I remember reading that and feeling devastated, because it wasn't just an argument, it was her. It was everything she believed, everything she was. And I thought, if this is what she really believes, then what does she see when she looks at me? What does she see when I tell her I love her? What does she see when I hold her hand? Does she see a man deluding himself? Does she see a man clinging to illusions? Does she see a man who can't face the truth? And I asked her, I said, what do you see when you look at me? And she said, I see someone who believes. I see someone who wants things to be meaningful. I see someone who is brave enough to hope, even when there's no reason to. And I said, and you think that's foolish? And she said, I think it's beautiful, and I think it's sad, and I think I envy you. She envied me. She envied my ability to believe. She envied my hope. She envied the way I could look at the world and see meaning. And I envied her clarity, her certainty, her ability to face the void without flinching. We were both missing something. We were both incomplete, and we thought we could complete each other. But we couldn't. I remember the night she told me. She said, I will never believe what you believe. I will never see the world through your eyes. I will never be able to give you what you need. I told her I knew. I told her I didn't care. I told her I would love her anyway. And I did. I loved her anyway. I loved her in spite of everything, in spite of the arguments, in spite of the silence, in spite of the way she would look at me sometimes like I was a child who still believed in Santa Claus. But love isn't enough. I said that, I said it to her, I said I love you, I'll always love you, but love isn't enough. I meant it then, and I still mean it. Because love, what is love? Love is wanting to be with someone. Love is caring about their well-being. Love is feeling connected to them. But love is not agreement. Love is not shared meaning. Love is not seeing the world the same way. And without those things, love is just longing. It's just missing someone. It's just wishing things were different. And I was tired of wishing. I was tired of longing. I was tired of wanting something I could never have. I was offered a job, Cape Town, a chance to start over, and I thought if I left I could find something else, something I could believe in. I met someone, Amara. She wasn't a philosopher, she was an architect. She didn't argue with me. She didn't dismantle my beliefs, she just accepted me. It didn't work, it couldn't work, because I was still in love with bait. I was still carrying her with me. And I realized it wasn't just bait. It was what bait represented. It was the possibility of connection, the possibility of shared meaning, the possibility of someone who understood me even if she disagreed with me. But understanding isn't enough. Agreement isn't enough. Love isn't enough. I came back, I couldn't stay away. I told myself I had changed. I told myself I had accepted her, all of her clarity, her coldness, her inability to believe. But I hadn't changed, and neither had she. We were exactly who we were. That was the tragedy. She was offered a position, London, a research fellowship, and she was going to take it. I asked her to stay. I begged her to stay, and she said, I can't be what you need, and you can't be what I need, and we're just hurting each other. She was right, she was always right. I thought about what it would mean to follow her, to go to London, to be the satellite orbiting her life while she built hers. I would have to give up my hope. I would have to accept her worldview. I would have to stop believing that there was something more. And she would have to stop being who she was. She would have to pretend. She would have to lie. And neither of us could do that. Neither of us was willing to betray ourselves for the other. Do you know what she said to me the last time I saw her? She said we didn't fail, we were perfect. Intellectually, emotionally. We understood each other completely, and that understanding was precisely what made us incompatible. We understood each other so well that we knew that we would never change each other's minds, that we would never see the world the same way, and that knowledge, that clarity, it killed us. We were too honest, that's what she said, we were too honest. Too honest, can you imagine? Two philosophers, too honest to lie to each other, too honest to pretend, too honest to make it work. And she said something else. She said, you think love is enough. You think if you love someone enough, everything else will fall into place. But that's not how it works. Love is just one part of it. Without shared meaning, love is just empty. It's just two people looking at each other, wanting something they can't have. And I said, so what do we do? And she said, we let go. And I said, I don't know how. And she said, neither do I, but we have to try. And so she left, and I let her go, because I loved her, because loving her meant letting her be who she was. I remember watching her walk away. She didn't look back, she never looked back. That was who she was. She made a decision and she followed through. No hesitation, no second thoughts, just clarity. And I stood there in the doorway watching her disappear into the city, and I thought, this is it. This is the end of us. But it wasn't, because she's still here, in my head, in my heart, in this empty room. She wrote me a letter. She said she wrote a book about us, about the impossibility of love without shared meaning, about the tragedy of understanding everything and still losing everything. She dedicated it to me. She said, you showed me that love is real, that it matters, that even when it fails, it changes us. I still don't believe in transcendence, but I believe in you, and I always will. Those were her words, her exact words. I still don't believe in transcendence, but I believe in you, and I always will. I've read that letter 100 times. I've memorized every word, every comma, every pause. She wrote it in her neat, precise handwriting, the same handwriting she used for her manuscripts, the same handwriting that dismantled Kant and Hegel and everyone else who dared to believe in something beyond the material. But this letter was different. This letter was her. It was the part of her she never showed anyone, the part that felt, the part that loved, the part that believed in me even when she couldn't believe in anything else. I sent her a message back. I told her I'm still hoping, I'll never stop. She probably analyzed that too, probably spent hours trying to understand what I meant, probably wished I had said something more definitive, something she could categorize. But I meant what I said. I'm still hoping, I'll never stop. Because hope is who I am. Hope is what I believe. Hope is the thing that sustains me, even when there's no reason to hope. I think about her all the time. I think about what she's doing right now. Is she writing? Is she reading? Is she dismantling someone else's beliefs? Is she thinking about me? She said she would always carry me with her. I want to believe that. I want to believe that I meant something to her, that I changed her the way she changed me. But I don't know. I don't know anything anymore. I believed in hope. I believed in meaning. I believed that love was enough. And now I'm standing in this empty room, holding a book and a letter, and I don't know what I believe anymore. I believed in us. I believed that we could figure it out. I believed that love would find a way. But love didn't find a way. Love found a wall and we hit it, and we broke. I wonder what would have happened if we had been less honest, if we had pretended, If we had compromised, would we still be together? Would we be happy? Or would we be miserable, trapped in a lie, slowly resenting each other? I think we made the right choice, the honest choice, the choice that hurt the most, but the choice that was true. Because that's who we were, that's who we are, people who value truth above comfort, people who would rather be right than happy. That's the tragedy of us. She used to say that love was a strategy, that it was biology, chemistry, an illusion we created to survive. And I used to argue with her. I used to say, no, love is real, love is transcendent, love is the only thing that matters. But now I wonder, maybe we were both right. Maybe love is biology, and maybe love is transcendent. And maybe those two things are the same thing, seen from different angles. Like the Ngong Hills. From here they're green and eternal. From there they're just rock and dirt. Both perspectives are true. Both perspectives are incomplete. That was us, two perspectives, both true, both incomplete, neither enough. She's gone, she's really gone, and I'm here, in this empty room, holding her book, holding her letter, holding the memory of everything we were. I think I'll always love her. I think I'll always carry her with me. I think I'll always believe that somewhere in some other world we made it work. But this is the world we have, and in this world we didn't. I thought about going to London, following her, showing up at her door and saying, I changed my mind. I'll follow you anywhere. I'll be anything you need. But that's not love. That's desperation. That's giving up on who I am to be who she needs me to be. And she would hate that. She would hate that I gave up my hope for her. She would say, you're not being honest. You're not being you. And she would be right. So I'm here, in this empty room, letting her go, letting us go. The sun is setting. The Ngong Hills are turning gold. It's beautiful. She would appreciate that. She would say, yes, it's beautiful, but it's just light refracting through particles of dust. It's just physics. And I would say, no, it's more than that. It's meaning, it's grace, it's hope. And we would argue, and we would laugh, and we would hold each other. And then we would fall apart again. Because we always did, because we always would. I should go, I should leave this room and never come back. I should forget her. I should find someone who believes what I believe, who sees what I see. But I don't want to, I want to stay here, in this empty room, holding her book, holding her letter, holding the ghost of her. She wrote in the book, on the inside cover she wrote, to Ben, who taught me that love is not a strategy, that hope is not a fiction, that even the coldest heart can warm. I was wrong about everything except you. I read it every day. I read it and I cry. I read it and I hope. But hope isn't enough. It never was, it never will be. I think about what she meant when she said, I was wrong about everything except you. Everything, that's a big word. Everything means everything. It means she was wrong about love. She was wrong about hope. And yet she still couldn't stay. She still couldn't be with me. Because being wrong about everything didn't change who she was. It didn't change her constitution. It didn't change the way she saw the world. She could admit she was wrong. She could admit that she felt something beyond the material, but she couldn't believe. She couldn't transcend. She couldn't become someone she wasn't. That's the tragedy of us. We loved each other, we understood each other, we changed each other, and it still wasn't enough. I think about the future. I think about what comes next. I think about whether I'll ever find someone who believes what I believe, who sees what I see. And I think maybe not. Maybe I had my chance. Maybe Bate was the only one who could understand me even if she disagreed with me. And I let her go. I let her go because I loved her. I let her go because I couldn't bear to watch us destroy each other. And now I'm here, in this empty room, alone. The Ngong Hills are green, the sun is setting, the city is humming below. And I'm alone. I'm alone in this empty room, holding a book and a letter, and I don't know what to do with myself. I think I'll keep hopping. I think I'll keep believing. I think I'll keep carrying her with me. Because that's who I am. That's what I believe. I believe in hope. I believe in meaning. I believe in love. Even when it fails, even when it breaks, even when it leaves me standing in an empty room holding nothing but memory. I believe. I have to believe. Because if I stop believing, then she was right. Then love is just biology. Then meaning is just a story. Then everything we had, everything we were, was just chemicals. And I can't accept that. I won't accept that. She was wrong about some things. Not everything, but some things. She was wrong that love is just a strategy. She was wrong that hope is just a fiction. She was wrong that we were just atoms and electricity. We were more than that. We were us. And us meant something. It meant everything. I'll keep believing that, even if she doesn't, even if she never does. Because that's who I am. That's what I believe. That's why I'm still here in this empty room, holding her book, holding her letter, holding the memory of her. She's gone, but I'm still here. And I'm still hopping. I'm still believing. I'm still loving her. And I always will. The end of part 1, Ben's monologue.